Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art Central Gallery. My name's Tracy Harding. I'm the Arts Officer and Gallery Manager for the Vale of Morgan Council. This is their venue, beautiful it is. Just a few points before we start, very boring ones, but it's a necessity. If the fire alarm does go off, we will be parading out through the doors in the foyer and through out onto King Square. You can follow myself to do that, and I will get you to safety. And not that I'm expecting one, but just in case. And also, if anyone needs the toilet facilities, there again, through the foyer, up the stairs to the right, or there's a lift up to the disabled toilet. So yes, and that concludes my sort of necessary information. So now I'd like to introduce Chas McGill, who is the co-chair for Women's Arts Association Wales.
Okay, thank you, Tracy, and thank you. I'll get on camera here. Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to everyone associated with Art Central for allowing us to host our talk here with Adeola amongst this wonderful art of our open exhibition, Women's Arts Association Wales, our 40th anniversary year as well, so a celebratory year for us. Thank you so much to Dr. Adeola Dewis for coming along and talking with us today for our annual Setch artist talk. Really significant event for us in our year. Setch being a founder member of the association, dedicating her 40 years to supporting artists and making the association what it is, a fantastic supportive space for women to express themselves. So to Adeola, I'm fascinated. It's brilliant that you're here. We're really delighted that you're here to be talking with us. We might know sort of Adeola from the TV. It's a familiar face to us from ITV Wales and Vanishing Wales. Also making of Tiger Bay as well, and great works on TV. You're from Trinidad, but living in Wales for over 20 years now, and working with your work in the museum at this moment. I visited just recently, and it's a fantastic, quite emotional experience to walk through the work that you've got there. Reframing Picton, a really important moment in the museum to be reframing, presenting, rethinking their collection and the way we think and the way we move around and understand that work. So it's fantastic that you're here. While we can, if we haven't seen that already, I really recommend you to go and experience it. So Adeola, we're really delighted that you can be here. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. I wear many hats, and when you talk about the museum work, that comes from Lacuneg, my company Lacuneg, and the exhibition is worth seeing. It was a collaborative piece of work, so I'm just a small part of that big work and that big kind of mission to represent and relook at problematic figures from the past in the museum's collections. But today, I'm going to read, okay? I'm going to read, and I promise it's not going to be boring. Well, it might be, but no. I'm going to read, so I'm not going to be speaking to any slides for now. The slides you can look at the slides afterwards. So if you want to close your eyes, you can, because there's not going to be anything to see. So I'm just going to read. It's not going to be very long. It'll be a relatively short talk. So I just invite you to kind of hold my hand through this journey as I kind of share what I want to share with you for this moment, okay? Okay. Okay, so I am grateful for the opportunity to sit with you, to share on my practice and on some of my current preoccupations. I am called Adeola Orisha Lashe Yemoja Niike. I am the daughter of Patricia Ivagbamila and Roel Afuape. I come from Trinidad and Tobago, and I've been living in Wales for the last 20 years. We're on a life journey, a fresh journey that is continuing from other lives we have already lived. For most of us, this journey is one of several more lives to come. Writers like Neil Walsh speak of these lives as processes of remembering, a gradual, lives-long evolution of sorts that allows us to remember our goddess essence, living as a journey back to ourselves. I see this idea of our evolution as a remembering and reconnecting through living as a tantalizing concept. Even in a single lifetime, we can witness the eroding of self, childhood joy, knowing, through the institutions of fitting in that help us to see ourselves through the eyes of another and forge ways of operating that dullen our instinctive inner voice and vision. Does that make sense? Are you following? Yeah. Okay. We joke that when we hit our 40s, we care less about what people say and return to remembering how to operate within the ways we feel. I don't think it particularly matters whether we're painting or dancing or doing medicine, accounts, or teaching, except to say that we're involved in a thing that on some level allows our soul to sing, allows us to connect with the instinctive, knowing on the level of feeling. I feel that soul singing, as an analogy of listening and following gut instinct, is perhaps one of two crucial things in this business of living. The other is directly related to this and is in some ways inseparable from acting on that gut knowing, that of living in the now. Creative practice can facilitate poignant opportunities to listen to soul voice and to be present. This potentially occurs through the imaginative, instinctive conceptualization of responses, commentaries, reflections, and through the organic mechanism of making the art, permitting involvement and immersion in the moment of the now. I feel that as our evolution as a species is in remembering some of our more indigenous ways of being with ourselves, with nature, and with each other, art has a role to play. I feel that the toolkit that art gives enables sincere ways of acting that perpetuates a necessary soul-singing shift. Listening, feeling, being. The challenge for some of us is perhaps in growing a lifestyle, a way of living and being that utilizes as a second practice, as it were, the skills honed through that art toolkit. Drawing is one of my earliest memories. My father would bring home from work piles of paper. I was interested in the body. I would draw people and faces. Sometimes my people drawings became my dolls. I would use cereal boxes when I wanted more stability for my paper dolls. I remember feeling like there was something I was trying to capture, something I wanted to grasp. When I tell you I was drawing as a child, it wasn't always a blissful activity. It was sometimes frustrating. I would crush up the imperfect drawings, the ones where my hands had not quite translated the vision of my imaginings. I did also spend time looking at drawings from illustrations in books and cartoons on television. Mostly, though, my drawing was from the inside out. I still feel at times that my hands struggle to translate my imaginings. I feel like I am in a process of unlearning, untying the taunt, expensively crafted, and logically justified boundaries that I have diligently wrapped around myself and awkwardly constricted the strains of my soul voice. I remember being excited at my first art lesson in high school. The homework task was to do a drawing, any drawing from your imagination. I used felt tips, and I drew a girl seated on grass with folded legs under a tree surrounded by flowers. It took ages. When I brought the homework to school, the subject teacher, she put a red X on it. And she said that the task was not to copy an image. I remember learning and developing amazing techniques and skills at A-levels, which I did with an extremely talented private tutor, Mrs. Howard, and also during my first degree, straddling and growing and honing craftsmanship skills with an impulsive, less careful abandon. I paint quickly. I remember being guided that if I took my time, my work would look much better. I remember being at the then Howard Gardens in Cardiff, grappling again with a practice that was evolving, looking at fine arts and my dance movement work. Being told what Black bodies needed to be aware of, being told where Caribbean art stood in the evolution of arts, being rated and leaving that level of education with way more questions than answers. And perhaps that's the point of a master's degree. I remember being told that my art was too colorful. I remember my drawings being called crude. I remember whiting out my canvases. I remember exploring performance art and through doctoral research, reconnecting with the carnivalesque, with masquerade. I remember engaging African diaspora cosmologies, using making and painting, photography, and more painting. Sometimes I feel like I have a lot to say. At other times, I just want to explore, to paint or draw, to write or dream. I often describe my art as occupying two areas, my selfish art and my save the world art. So my selfish art is the work that comes out when no other art form can facilitate the articulation of what's going on inside. And my save the world art is often the commissioned work, or arts funded, or sometimes collaborative. I don't think it particularly matters whether we're painting for ourselves or for others, except to say that we're involved in a thing that on some level allows our soul to sing. There's more. I remember my mum saying that whatever we enjoyed as a child should in some way be part of our adult life. I instinctively know that I am in an awakening process of following joy. After countless job application rejections, I have finally gone back to remembering that this art thing, in all its forms, is what I have chosen to experience in this lifetime. I guess, more accurately, I have created the situations of academic job disappointments when the potential jobs held a level of permanence. Rooted within the writing of those tentative applications that on the outside appeared to be the proper grown-up thing to do to relieve sporadic income was a fear of death. A fear that I would be swallowed due to an overload of admin, or that through the fleetingness of time, I wouldn't be able to fully balance that work with the time to dream, to paint, to dance, to write, or to hear my own voice. It doesn't matter if there's any truth embedded in this fear. I am, like you, a creator. And like you, I make real what my thoughts perpetuate and what my words seed. Recently, I've been aware of a deep feeling of joy in seeing colleagues, acquaintances, friends, family coming into their own, witnessing the different ways in which those around me are beginning to say yes to their instincts and to do the things that articulate the utterings of soul voice. And perhaps you've noticed this too within your own circles. Living in the now and listening to gut can seem like a gargantuan task, like jumping off a cliff and hoping for a soft landing, stepping away from the expected, the preconceived, and allowing the gut feeling that can feel so at odds with the state-sanctioned sanity and normality, that allowing that gut feeling to come through. This is often accompanied by fear, a fear of rejection, a fear of failure, or of ridicule. But stepping into gut feeling need not be a gargantuan task. We can be gentle with ourselves. For some of us, the task can begin with taking the time to find the answer to the question, what do you want? I use want here not as a pining desire that leaves you in a state of wanting, but as a way of framing a question, of listening to soul desire. I believe answers to this question come instinctively when making art. For some of us, the work is then to put this into practice in everyday things. How do we formulate responses to situations that are in tune with our sincere inner feelings? From your choice of herbal tea to standing up for human rights, how do we take the time to be still, to listen to gut, and respond from a position of joy, a position of love? They say that love is our true nature. I don't know if it's helpful to know this or not, except to say that if this is so, our evolution is towards a knowing and showing of love. As a species, we still have a long way to go. So, say we practice this little thing of checking in with ourselves, of stillness and hearing our inner voice in the decisions that we make, of listening and following gut instinct. What does this look and feel like? Sometimes I start a painting with an already sketched draft of what it might look like. That rough sketch may have been stimulated by a phrase in a book, something I saw, a dream. When I get to the canvas, the hessian, the fabric, the sketch is loosely imposed on the surface. It is like the beginning of a conversation. As the painting progresses, I have a feeling that I am speaking and responding to the canvas itself. I am aware that I make a mark, and I stand back to see the mark, and the mark may work or not work, may suggest a need to be altered or changed in some way. The piece continues like this until it feels like it's enough. Perhaps I like having the last word, so I may run a red brushstroke here or add some dots over there. Essentially, though, when the piece is at a point of fullness, it often looks very different from the original sketch. The process of making the work, the conversation as it were, is that practice of stillness to hear inner voice in decision making. It doesn't matter if the piece is so-called good or bad, it just is. And that isness speaks to where you are and how you're feeling. It's just what it is. I feel that the stillness and checking in with gut allows for being more present in the present as well, rather than worrying about a past or anticipating a future. I feel that remembering how to grow and listen to instinct is in some cosmic network connected to ways of being better with ourselves, with nature, and with each other. I collaborated with an artist, Phil Babbitt, a few years ago, June and Amaru and his team as well, on a performance project. I see Phil as an expert in ritual and shamanic performance art practices. In response to some of my concerns about my evolving practice at the time, I recollect him saying something along the lines of, when you're sincerely engaged in the performance, the audience participant, even if they don't understand the work, will connect on the feeling, connect on the level of feeling. In this kind of performance art, we were utilizing techniques such as duration of clock time and repetition. I used to think that the transformation of mind state from self-conscious to less conscious that occurs in repetitive ritual tasks, dancing past exhaustion in a carnival, participation in extreme sports or through other forms of movement, was about dissolving the body, that these experiences allowed for a transformation beyond body or out of body. And it does, but I now feel that while those transformations through performative processes do allow a sensation of moving beyond body, they are intrinsically bound, linked, and indebted to body. What I mean is that the trans-ing of form both moves from and belongs to form. And in that sense, the knowing of what it means to be in body remains a crucial focal point to any knowing of what it can potentially mean to be out of or beyond body. I don't think it particularly matters whether I'm being fully aware and conscious in body or drifting into ethereal experiences, except to say that I am often involved in a thing that is about dreaming and sometimes embodying the potential of becoming something else in order to then become more myself. Are you following? Okay, just checking in. Okay. The Trinidad Carnival and writers like Gerard Atching offer useful engagements with ideas around masking and transformation. The sentiment is generally that carnival masqueraders are, to varying degrees, involved in processes of revealing themselves through enactments of masking. This is particularly poignant for those of us who feel marginalized in day-to-day life. Carnival provides opportunity to, among other things, be yourself. In Trinidad, we say, play yourself. In playing ourselves, we are invited to remove social masks of fitting in, of being who, how, and what we think we ought to be, and daring to be who, how, and what we feel to be. Being what you feel, and perhaps also being what you need. I have needed to be a lot of different things. Migration, marriage, and then divorce, and motherhood, each forged ways of being that necessarily differed from the selves through whom I had grown accustomed. This is not good or bad in terms of its implication, except to say that while it was necessary for certain selves to become dominant in order to best survive and thrive in new spaces and scenarios, it was also necessary to find or make opportunities that allowed space for the visibility of the suppressed, more familiar selves. These opportunities may have included visits back home, listening to certain music, conversations with people in similar situations. As an artist, I was able to make the opportunities that allowed for the visibility of suppressed selves. This involved making temporary spaces, performance art installations that depended on the very dynamic that I was craving. It was the study and interrogation of carnival and the use of this form in practice that allowed for other selves to come up for air. I feel that my practice ought to hold space for all the selves I bring. My practice currently shows up as painting, drawing, performance, writing, and spoken word. I feel more and more that what we do does not have to make sense to anyone else. What we do does not have to fit into ready-made, labeled boxes with clearly defined edges. It's okay to be plural, to keep exploring, to do different things, to ask questions, and to aim to follow joy. I'm still on a journey. I don't think it particularly matters if my journey takes me deeper into art or further away from art, except to say, my hope is that wherever I find myself, I allow my steps to be led by my soul voice. Thank you.